hit the go live button.
All right, I am recording.
And we're live. And we're back.
And we're back. Yeah, smoke break. First time in 10 years. No, I'm kidding. I'm not smoking again. Don't worry, everyone. Everyone who's following my health journey, I'm not smoking again. I can't afford it. Do you know what a pack of cigarettes costs here now?
$30?
No, not 30. 12.
Okay.
$12 for a pack of Marby Reds. The old cowboy killers. And I smoke the cools because I'm cool. And I like to crystallize my lungs. But yeah,
I thought it was fun. There was a huge line at the gas station the other day. Inside, not at like the pumps. Because there's only one register open, and there was like 3 employees around, but that's fine because it was a quick star, so it's like, well, that guy's like a chef and that guy's like a bathroom attendant, so it's like they're not necessarily all checkout people.
Yeah, they're not qualified to run the cash machine, nor would they let their parolees handle cash.
I don't know. Quick Stars, I'm not sure if you have them there. They kind of popped up all over the place, but they're really good at keeping bathrooms clean, and they have a lot of good variety inside their stores, but they can get busy. So
now here we have Speedway, and we've got a bunch of swarthy people from angry countries that always look at you like, I slit your belly open. It's like, whoa, I just want a coffee. It's like, no cream and sugar. Okay, that's what we got here. We don't have like the concierge bathroom attendant stuff.
And what the hell was I talking about? Oh yeah, so they had a long. Oh no, what the fuck was I talking about?
Price of cigarettes.
Oh yeah, they had a long line, and the person running the cash register was like, 19 or something like that, and a guy was getting cigarettes, which made the transaction even longer because it's like, well, that's the only place you can get cigarettes, and because the person's 19, it's like, oh yeah, like kids don't really smoke anymore, or they smoke something different, so they don't know what packs of cigarettes are what, or what this guy specifically wants. Like,
I want some Marlboro 100 Reds. It's like, excuse me, what, sir? The 100s. I'm a rich guy. I want the $15 a pack. With the long filters, Marlboro 100, so I don't get cancer. Oh yeah, those. You don't want the Marlboro 72s, which are what they used to call sailor cut, where they have the short filters, so you can die sooner because you just have a miserable life.
So anyways, let's see. We got we cut to the jewelry shop. Lorraine's there. She gets an envelope that's left on the table. It's got like a passport and a watch in it. We also cut to like Percival's outside. He has the shop bugged. Because I guess he's diligent or whatever. So
yeah,
he's a spy, so he's appropriately paranoid.
But it's another thing that like wasn't really explained to us. It's just like, oh, this is happening.
He's also like, and while I was listening, he like takes off his cast. It's where it's like, wait, is his arm broken at all, or is that just like a cover, or is that just so he can hit people harder? Like, what's going on
here? Yeah.
So she gets a passport and she gets a watch, and she dismantles the watch, which has clues on it, which like seems cool, but is ultimately pointless.
Yeah, I was hoping for more of a payoff for like, oh, is this going to be like the microfilm in the watch, like from the old days, or no?
I mean,
it's
she was
just
like
clue watch.
Yeah, it's like there's like numbers and stuff etched onto gears, which coordinates to like some sort of map of East Berlin and tells her where to go, which is like kind of neat, but just seems like that's a lot of that's a lot of work for that.
Yeah.
Have this guy, he's gonna like mark up a Rolex, but it does establish a thing like, oh, watches in this universe have information, so it gets that across, I guess. So yeah, Lorraine crosses over into East Berlin. Here she's wearing like more plain clothes, because you got to go to the poor East Berlin side. So.
Yeah, don't wear your Levi's. Don't wear your dark Levi's over there.
We also wrote stalker posters in the background. But that's not just a quick shot. There's more stalker to come. So she's getting stale.
The
Run by
one thing
this.
I liked about this movie is like, oh, they've got Stalker in it a lot.
I wrote she's getting tailed by the Stasi, or is this just KGB guys? I'm not sure.
Both
Both,
generic. KG Stasi at this point.
okay. So she's getting tailed, so she hops in the theater to try to lose a tail, and so it's just like a stalker retrospective because there's like displays of stalker memorabilia. You go into the theater, stalker is playing. So it's just they're playing. I'm not sure which scenes they're playing. I think this one is the one where they're like throwing the nuts with the like tied off bows on it across the sand and that cancer cavern they had in the movie or whatever.
Yeah, it's the most iconic scene from Stalker.
Yeah,
because on my Facebook, like usually my like background picture over my face is like a scene from Stalker. I try to pick different ones, but yeah, that's always. So it's like I immediately vectored in on that in this movie. It's like, oh, a movie within a movie, or it's like a movie I actually enjoy. One of those deals.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this has any deeper meaning or if it's just like the director or somebody is like, oh, this would be a cool movie to be shown in the background.
This is what they'd show in East Germany because it's like Soviet cinema from the 80s, and they'd show it in the late 80s. And everyone pretends to be an intellectual like me when they watch it. It's like, oh, I'm smart, therefore I get this movie. I'm the king of pseudo-intellectuals.
She's like hiding in the audience for a bit, and the guys are moving around. She moves away from them. She goes through like a coat, like checkout plate, like where they hang their coats, and she like steals some keys from the coat. And then she ends up like in the back, and she's like fighting behind the movie screen. She dispatches one guy, but then she comes up against a bigger guy. And this is the guy that she stabs in the face with keys, and the keys are like hanging from his face for like most of the fight, which is funny. It's like, that's not a priority for him. Don't pull the keys out of your face just yet.
He's doing the Liam Neeson from The Gray thing where he's going to break bottles between his fingers so he can like fight the wolves. Because now he has claws too, but she's doing it with keys.
Yeah.
He's just going to let the key hang out of his face because he's so on mission. He's like, I'm not going to notice this thing like that could be punched and actually like breach my jaw and cause a lot more pain. It's like, no, I'm not going to immediately pull the key out of my face because it looks cool and it shows what a badass I am. Because I'm so like vectored in on the mission, I'm not going to notice like puncture wounds to my cheek.
And even though like we had the encounter with the police and she won, like she still had to take an ice bath after that because like she got beat up by a lot of guys. So, yeah. Taking like because like all the police had like batons, which the thing is like why she isn't a superhero. Like she beats up people because she's good at blocking, but that doesn't mean she's free from damage. She's not a superhero.
Yeah, this isn't like the Matrix where she's just blocking every like punch and not moving her head. It's like, no, she's taking damage, but it's not like debilitating until later. It's like that's when the wound sets in.
But here, yeah, she's getting beat up by this guy, and
this guy's like kicking the shit out of her. Like he's actually like, again, this is the movie where the rules are no concussions.
At least not
like
for your
main character. I can throw a punch because I'm assuming he's like a stunt guy in Germany or whatever. It was like you can tell this guy knows how to fight. He's not connecting, of course, because it's a movie. Because if he connected with her one time in real life, she would be like, "Okay, take me in."
Well, I think a lot of this movie is like this director built action scenes for misogynists who couldn't believe a woman could give or take a punch.
Yeah.
I think this is like as realistic. It's like, yeah, she's not like, she's smaller than all the guys she's fighting. Usually. I don't know. Some of them might be like people who haven't eaten for a couple of days. So, maybe she's getting the upper hand on them, but she's not invincible. She thinks her way out of it. She uses her environment well, and she always has something to fight with. She's not purely just fisticuff guy after guy. Like, no, she's using different things to her advantage. So that like a guy who can't believe a woman could beat up a man could like, okay, she, okay, and if she hits him with a frying pan, that's okay. But
well, no, I'm evaluating this because I know how many hits I can take, and it's like 2. It's like I
Yeah.
can take one to the body, one to the head, and then I'm like, oh fuck this, I'm shooting now. I don't look at it as a woman. It's just like, oh no, this guy knows how to hit, and I just put myself in her position. Like that would hurt.
Yeah.
Like I would be like my vision would be doubled at that point
Yeah.
if I took a shot like that. So,
But I mean,
uh,
she's not trying. She'd rather just leave than fight this guy. And
yeah,
if she
yeah,
had a
she'd rather
gun, she
deal
would
with it,
shoot the guy.
right?
But she doesn't
Yeah,
have a gun because she has no support.
and this isn't America either, where there's like, oh, just look in shoe boxes. There's Glock. It's like immediate.
um, but no, I think. But they're like, this movie does like they spend time in this movie that like all these fights take a toll. It's just she's not a superhero. Because there's a lot of movies that do that where it's like they tried to like correct things from the past where you just had a damsel in distress. It was like now the damsel's a fighter. And it's like, and then like, oh, okay, well, yeah, you need to be a fighter now. It's like, and then she's just a superhero person. She can take all the hits and no damage, and she can throw 300-pound men around like nothing. And she's not a superhero. She's just a woman you want to be like cool, which that's fine in a lot of respects. But then of course, like you get like these dope misogynists who just like, this is woke.
Well, see,
But
that's what I appreciate about the Road Warrior. Okay, he takes a shot in the leg in Mad Max, and in the Road Warrior, he still has that polio brace on, because if you get shot in the leg, it's not healing up like in
yeah,
2 hours. It's like, oh no, you're going to be walking with the polio brace for years. And I like movies like that, whereas as opposed to these movies where people beat the shit out of each other, and then 2 scenes later they're like Muhammad Ali walking into it's like, no, that sucks. It's like,
but
I
that was
mean,
also
these people have been hit a few times. If you're a stunt guy, you've been hit a few times.
but this is like also the clever thing because like the same guys the misogynist guys that love Die Hard. And Die Hard, he's running away from people. He takes damage in every fight and is represented throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
He does not want to fight people. But because they really like Bruce Willis, they just don't see him as a coward. Even though he's not a coward. He's like, I'm outnumbered. I can't fight these guys.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have to like
Well,
hide.
when they show people like let's take the John Wick movies, just because this has a connection to that.
Yeah.
When they show people fighting him, where they're just like firing out of both guns like into the walls and shit, it's like that's exactly what I would do, because this is a terrifying situation I can't master, and it's like I either have to kill this guy or get him to take cover long enough so I can get to a place of safety. Now, where John Wick gets stupid is people keep charging at this guy and no one takes cover. It's like, no, I'm immediately taking cover, but yeah, I am holding the AK like this over the top because that's making a lot of noise and potentially doing a lot of damage, so I can get out of that situation, not so I can continue to press forward. That is for lunatics to do, not me. So,
But also like this is just a trope of action movies where like you fight a succession of guys. Like there's just a bunch of guys, you want to show how badass they are, is that they can fight off multiple guys. Which I don't know. I don't have anything off the top of my head of this occurring in real life. Where it's like one person fought their way through like an entire gang and lived.
I mean, the closest thing you get to this is like the North Hollywood shootout in reality. And those guys were just on an insane amount of drugs and had like homemade, basically armor.
Yeah.
To where it's like, oh, you could shoot me as many times as you want with your 9mm handgun.
Yeah.
I'm not going to feel it because I'm on drugs and I've made homemade tactical armor. It's like that's real. That really happened. Like you can point to a realistic situation where these guys were drugged out of their minds, had fully automatic weapons and impenetrable armor. But the police thought their way through it. It's like, we're going to the gun store and getting deer hunting rifles, and we're going to shoot these guys in the head. And it's like, that's what really happened. That's how it ended. And so, yeah, that's like the, but in the real world, it doesn't take 5 minutes. It takes like an hour. It's like, oh, problem, think, solution. That doesn't involve me taking a face full of AK-47. Like no one's doing that in real life.
And I've seen some stuff where it's like bully situations where it's like some kid in high school like took some MMA classes, and for some reason people decided to bully him. I don't know, because
Yeah.
he's the loner taking MMA classes or something. And he knocks one guy out in the chin, he goes down immediately, and then the other his friends rush him, and then he like picks up a guy and tosses him on the ground, and then the other friends see, oh, he just incapacitated two people, I'm not fighting him.
Yeah, this is dumb. This is dumb without weapons. And take it from me, I'm the guy who was like the height and size I am now in 7th grade. Like I grew very quickly, but I knew the little squirrely guys that knew, like there wasn't MMA wasn't a thing then, but like the karate guys that could do like, oh, spin kicks from the floor, like that would just knock you out. It's like I never fucked with those guys. It's like he knows more about fighting than me because he studied fighting. I will grab an axe hand. I'm more like the what was that movie, like Pale Rider with Clint Eastwood, where he took the axe handle and swung it around and incapacitated people. It's like that makes sense to me. I could see that happening because it's like you just got to go from one guy to the next, but you're using like a piece of hickory, not your hands or your feet. I don't understand that kind of fighting, but I knew the kid in high school that could do that was 5 feet tall, and I knew he could like, oh, he's just going to spin kick me and knock me out, so I'm going to be his friend. I didn't pick on people in school because I was like, oh, I'm fascinated with you. Like, oh, tell me about your journey to a black belt where you can throw a kick like that, but you can't drive a car. I knew a guy like that. It was like he could beat everyone's ass, but he was so dyslexic he couldn't do his right foot and his left foot right to drive a car. And I had a stick shift, and he was like challenged by that. He's like, oh, I'm a black belt in karate. I can beat anyone's ass, but I can't drive a regular car, let alone a stick shift. So we went out and tried it. And I was like, left foot clutch, right foot brake, gas. I showed him all the shit. He couldn't figure it out, but this guy could literally do like a flying kick. And it's like, why can't you figure this out? It's like, this is dumb. But that was always my magic superpower, is like operating machinery. It's like, I got this. I'm your guy. You want to throw a kick from the floor? It's like, not me. No, this guy. Go ask him. So yeah, those people always fascinated me because they were as strong as their weakness. It's like, oh, he could kill a room full of guys with kicks, but he couldn't drive the getaway car.
That's why you have a getaway driver. You got to specialize.
Yeah, that's why I'm sitting in the Escort, the 1980 Escort. It's like, okay, you're ready to get away now? Well, put it in gear. And Dad had to like yell at me to teach me how to do it because I was too stupid to do a stick shift at first either. But then it's like, well, this is what you're going to drive. So then I could drive a stick shift.
I just had trial by fire, and it's always a thing where it's like, once you figure it out, you think anybody can figure it out, and then you try teaching somebody. It's like, oh wait, this is a nightmare.
Well, I figured out that I can't teach anybody. Because that's like the thing with like the forklifts at work. It's like, oh, you're good at this, you should teach people. It's like, oh no. No. I tried, and it's like, you can't yell at people. It's like, why? They're not trying. They're obviously not trying. It's like, I'm giving them all the information, they're not learning.
Well, I mean, the hardest thing with stick shift is just getting it to gear, especially on a hill, because like it's just it's that whole, it's like we gotta like kind of let off the clutch and push on the gas. And if you don't give enough gas, you stall out. And if you give it too much gas, it just feels very weird and the car will shake.
And you'll smell a weird smell because the clutch will be burning because you went into it too high. It's more of an art than a science.
Yeah.
Can't explain it. I'm glad I learned how to drive a stick shift because it's like I felt like after that it's like, well, yeah, bulldozer, okay, pull this lever for this,
I just think it's funner. It's more involved in the car. Yeah, it's fun to like, I'm going at this speed, I'm turning this corner. What gear do I need to be in to accelerate out of this corner and stuff like that? Which mostly I still have a stick shift, so yeah. I still make some.
The only thing that has a stick shift because it used to be like the really cheap cars, manual transmission.
Yeah.
And for years that's what I had. And now it's like, no, only the really expensive cars manual transmission. Like,
well, not even that. Like your supercars have the paddle shifters. So
yeah, that sucks. I've had
Um,
some of those. Those are terrible. Not a supercar, but a car with those shifters, and
yeah.
it's like it's not fun.
um, but they're still like, I don't know. There's like weird. There's like Toyotas and Hondas where it's like, here's our rally car stick shift. And it's
Yeah,
like, oh, that's cool. They still make that, but the car's like $50,000
yeah, that's the problem.
for a car that's not really. It's expensive and it's not utilitarian.
Yeah, it's not practical. Don't get me wrong, being in second gear and having the rev limiter while I'm going around the corner, like, that would be cool as shit. I would love that. But there's no like, oh, the milk's coming home. We're like, I got a co-pilot here. It's like easy left, hard right, brake, brake, brake. I want that experience, but it's like, yeah, there's nowhere in my life that happens. It's just I live in the suburbs where it just sucks the soul out of your body, but you have great equity in your home when you retire. I don't know.
So this large German man throws her through the screen, but like, oh, I forgot there's an alarm pulled, so the theater's empty, so there's not like a gasp when she flies through the screen.
Yeah.
He also like kind of like triumphantly walks through the hole in the screen, takes the keys out of his cheek, and then she's just gone. So it was weird. It's like,
Yeah, I don't understand like the ball sack display this guy has to have. Like he walks through the screen with his chest puffed out like I did something. It's like, okay, number one, you beat up a woman. Number two, your quarry is gone. Like the person you were here to capture has now fled. So I wouldn't be strutting around like you're the first man who had sex. It's like, you didn't accomplish a whole lot.
Then we cut to it's like a rooftop somewhere. Lorraine loses her tail and meets with her contact, Merkel, played by Bill Skarsgård. Like, I don't know, maybe other people. His most famous thing is he's like the new It movie. He plays It.
Yeah.
But he's been
He's
in a
part
bunch
of the
stuff.
family of Skarsgårds.
Is
right?
he part of it? Okay, maybe. There's a lot.
Maybe, I don't know.
I think there's like 2 trees of Skarsgårds or something.
Are these like the Baldwins of Sweden where there's
Kind
just like
of.
a bunch of them? Okay.
Because I know that there's like Peter Skarsgård, Alexander Skarsgård. Those are the most famous, and then he might be a part of the family. I'm not sure. It's
Or
a
it's
weird enough name where it's like they have to be related.
Are they related, or is it like the Smith of Sweden? I don't know.
I don't know. It's kind of like, yeah, there's a lot of famous Baldwins, but then there's like the one Baldwin that's not a Baldwin that was in,
The
like,
guy
Full
from
Metal
Firefly?
Jacket. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not that Baldwin, but I have man parts. My favorite character was Jane, but I got guy parts,
He was
which actually, he's not that dumb, but he plays a character that dumb in Firefly.
he was Animal Mother in Full Metal Jacket, right?
Oh, yeah. What was his famous line? I can't say it. Never mind. Watch the movie. Full Metal Jacket. I'm not going to talk about
Probably won't do that here. It's
Yeah,
a Stanley Kubrick movie. It doesn't need really explanation or touting as like, oh, this was this was a forgotten and misunderstood movie.
Yeah. Yeah, please let's like some uneducated Midwestern factory worker extol the virtues of Stanley Kubrick to you. That's what you're tuning in for.
Merkel's like, I don't know, I wrote he's some kind of revolutionary or something. They're talking about like, I guess they're like near like the Stasi office or something like that. And it's like, why would you be so close to the enemy? It's like, because it's easier to watch him or something like that. Do you know what he's supposed to be or what he is?
He's basically, he seems like he's the like what do you call it, like the assistant of the main character. Like he's always in on the plans.
Okay.
Of Lorraine, the Charlize Theron character, because throughout the movie she'll say like, is this ready, is that ready? He's like, yeah, of course, but so he's like, I'm assuming he's an MI6 based on how the movie ends. I don't know.
Okay.
CIA guy, I don't know who he is, but
I thought he was supposed to be like an East German guy who was like fighting against the KGB or whatever. Or
well, he might be that too, but I assume, I don't know which organization he represents.
Or he could just be a Swedish agent hanging out there.
Yeah,
because at some point, at their later point, they use it as a getaway where he has like the ambassador's car, which like maybe he's like the Swedish ambassador or something.
The most badass Swedish ambassador that ever existed. I'm not just here to sell you guns. I believe in freedom.
um, so yeah, she meets him on the roof. He's got like some weird device. I can't remember what he's doing something. He's got tech. He's like kind of seen as the tech guy. Even
Some
though,
ultra high frequency something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, there's not really a whole lot of tech in this movie. So,
That's 80s tech, which to us looks strange.
but yeah, but they don't use any cool spy stuff really.
No, no, no.
There's a computer playing Tetris, and then somebody has a Walkman, which a Walkman at this point would have been out for like, I don't know, would that come out in like 79 or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I started seeing human beings could afford, normal humans could afford them in like 85.
Okay.
I think that's when I had one because I remember they took 4 batteries and they lasted like 2 hours. So. Dad, I need more batteries. What? Like, no, books on tape, Dad.
Then we cut to Bakhtin shows up at the jewelry shop to give a message that he's open for business, implying that he has the list and it's up for sale. We cut to Lorraine. She's like reviewing all her the wiretap she had on her. And here she heads off to the club to meet Delphine. In the comic book, the Delphine role is played by a man. He's just a French spy who's being suave. But
is
here,
he a sexual spy in the comic?
Yeah. They have,
he's a sex spy. Okay.
I mean, they have like a sexual encounter, but she just pulls a gun on him to like she's just using to get the gun from him. She doesn't actually have sex with him. Here, that's like she gets the gun from him, but then they just actually have sex in here. But in the book, it's just like Lorraine's just doing that to suss the situation out, to get close to them, physically get close to them. But also in the comic book, he has real estate. Like he owns a restaurant in West Berlin, which is kind of weird. It's like, what, a spy owns real estate in the place he's spying on? That seems kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, it's French, so maybe.
Yeah, man. Also, like in the background at the club, there's like a remix of Politics of Dancing plays. Here, Delphine kisses Lorraine, and they kind of head off to go have sex. They make out in the back. Here, Lorraine takes a gun off of Delphine and then just puts it to her head and holds her up and interrogates her.
Yeah.
So Delphine reveals that, like, she knows who Lorraine is. That like she's an MI6 spy, and she knows like the Russians know who she is, and basically she's like revealing everything that's going on here. But she's also like new to the spy game. She's only done this for a year, and she's also like scared because she says Berlin's never been this dangerous before. Because there is something in the book, and it's not really applied here, but like in the book, they're like, yeah, the spy craft, it can be deadly, but mostly everybody keeps a middle distance, so there's no swings of reaction. It's like, oh no, they got the information, but there's not like tons of bodies and like things in the news going on all the time.
No.
Whereas here, there's like the bodies are starting to pile up, stuff is showing up in the news. Like it's never been like this before. People are getting crazy. Right. Which they don't necessarily like. They don't juxtapose that's what's going on here. You're just what's implied in the movie is that Berlin's a crazy place and crazy things happen. So,
well, there was something during the Cold War called like Berlin rules, which it was never codified into something I can give you in a list, but it was basically like the war between good and evil. It's like, well, God can't do anything because if God does something, then Satan can react with an equal amount of force.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the Berlin rules. Like, okay, you don't kill KGB assets or MI6 or CIA assets also get killed. Like it was kind of a balance of power. There's actually been books written about it. It was never, I don't know if it's a formal thing. It's just something that sounds cool. And I like the biblical reference too. So it's like that. It's like, yeah, you don't kill the other guy's people because then they kill your people in retaliation. And then that escalates until, I don't know what, nuclear war. I mean, I'm not sure, but
I mean, isn't that like the thing in like Bridge of Spies? It's like you don't kill these people because you can trade assets. You keep them alive.
Yeah.
and then like their own country might kill them, but you don't kill them.
Yeah, it's an economy of knowledge. It's like, okay, they're worth more alive than dead, and yeah, it's like it's almost like buying into gold. It's like, well, when do you get out of the market? Like never, because it's infinite increase in value. So
And like you may just like, and if you capture a spy, like you don't even need to like interrogate them necessarily. You just let the other side squirm on thinking about like, well, what do they know now? And
yeah,
like they might not know anything, but the threat is there. They might know something.
yeah. I mean, that was the. I mean, that's the danger of like double agents, and it's a game we played, the British played, the Russians played. The British and the Russians had more style than we did because, I mean, everything I've read about the real like spy game is like, well, the CIA was the master of electronic like tech. Like, yeah, the CIA was way better than that than the British because we had the money, and way better at than the Russians because we had the technology, but they were better at like manipulating people. We didn't exactly put as much effort into that because it's like, well, people are just going to lie to you 6 different ways, so why try? It's better to tap their international cables and send the Navy SEALs in to do that, and then we can verify all their lies or refute them. But the British and the Russians that had a much more refined dance than we did. We were always Americans are very goal orientated. It's like we want results. We're not doing this for the sake of art. We want something to happen.
I have a data sheet. Put the data in the sheet.
Yeah, it's all everything's business in America. It even the spy game. It's like, okay, what are we getting per dollar? And that sounds ridiculous, but at the end of the day, we won. It's like, yeah, it works. It's not eloquent. You don't get to play Mozart or and stare out at a river and lament like the death of civilization. It's like, no, it's all numbers, but it works. So yeah.
So yeah, after Lorraine puts a gun to her head, they go back to kissing. After she's like, "Oh, okay, she's cool." Then they smash cut to them having sex in bed.
Yeah.
Then we cut back to the overall interrogation. I forget, like Gray says something that's like a sexual innuendo. It's like, "Ah, so you finished then?"
Yeah.
And he seems kind of like embarrassed or whatever. Like, I don't know if she actually described a sex scene with this lady or if that's just, because we're cutting to this, that's easily implied to the audience.
Well, that's that actor too. The guy's name's like James Faulkner. He's a British actor, but he has this crazy voice. He's like the guy behind Toby Jones in The Room, who's kind of asking questions, but he talks like this, and it's always like it's kind of like a East London accent, but it's also like he's saying very grim things. He's the guy behind the guy. He's like what's that guy from Game of Thrones? Like Charles Dance. He's one of those guys.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, of course I'm in charge and I run everything, and it's so he's always talking like that. His name's James Faulkner. If you hear the voice, you know the guy, and yeah. So this is what we imagine MI6 is like. It's like, God, I hope these British guys are in charge of everything because we sure don't know what the fuck's going on, or we do.
I'm not sure if this is the moment where like they reload the recorder or something. That might be later, but we cut back to.
They're actually doing something with the reel-to-reel recorder where they pull on the tape and it sounds distorted for a second. So they're like, implying that reality is now being distorted because these two women had sex and we're all put out by it because we're British people and sex doesn't exist. And
oh yeah, and I guess in the 80s, like being gay would be super weird. I mean, it's like being a lesbian was more acceptable, but even then it would still be like, uh-oh.
I don't. Those two chicks being gay, even in the 80s, would be like, yeah, I don't think people would be horrified by that.
Yeah, I mean, it's always less.
Or they pretend to be horrified.
Yeah.
Because we all know that's hot. So.
Yeah.
That's why it's in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't need to explain that.
Yeah, you get two of the hottest ladies in the world and have them have sex. That's cool.
Yeah.
This should sell tickets, but it didn't.
Yeah, now if like Michael Fassbender and some other beautiful guy were doing that, we'd be like, oh, there was an icky scene in the movie. But that's because we're not gay, so oh, whatever you're into.
They cut back to them in bed. Delphine starts to say something about Percival, but she kind of like hushes her up and thinking that this place is bugged. And she turns up the music, which we have Voices Carry plays, which that will play later on too.
Which is actually a very cool song for "You're Being Bugged."
And then Delphine whispers something about Percival to Lorraine that we don't hear.
Yeah.
So that'll be something to cut back to later on. And also we cut to Percival's listening in on Lorraine. He's also like messing with his cast again, and he pulls like an ice pick out of it, and Bakhtin like walks up behind him and is like, he's like mad at him for something, but he's like wants to work with him or two. But then here he just kills Bakhtin, just stabs him in the head. Takes Gascoigne's watch back
through the forehead with an ice pick, which would be very hard to do.
He's trained. Part of the
skull. Yeah. He knows where the fontanelle is. He knows that as a baby, his soft spot didn't close up. Driving an ice pick through somebody's skull would be like, yeah, go pick a rock out of your garden and just stab at it. Because, but for the movie, it looks cool. That's why No Country for Old Men was frightening, because it's like, that's how you go through a skull with something that isn't a gun. It's like you use a captive bolt weapon with an air tank.
Or go
through
the eyeball.
I think he had a breathing problem. It's like, no, he's a psychopath. Uses a cattle gun to kill people.
So yeah, he takes Gascoigne's watch back, and he thinks the list is on there. We cut to Lorraine meets with Kurtzfeld at the Berlin Wall. Here, like Kurtzfeld like talks about like all the stuff that's going on over there to keep people in. He's like, and there's still 50,000 people fled over here.
Which is where I figured out where the movie was going, because it's like, oh, why is the CIA talking to MI6 in an obvious, vulgar, overhanded manner, and he's handing her a newspaper, which is a classic like spy handoff thing.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, she's really working for him. And also because it's John Goodman. It's like, you didn't hire him to do a bit part.
I mean, he's not in the movie a lot, but he makes, he stands out whenever he
does John something. Goodman's cool. He's always the best guy, especially in roles like this. Because he's always like, he's really jolly now because he lost a lot of weight. I guess he quit drinking or something.
Yeah.
So he's just kind of, instead of the guy in Roseanne, he's like this jolly guy who's like very exasperated with everyone around. Like, don't you know what the fuck's going on?
So here he warns of like the death toll that's going to happen if the list gets out. So they just like reiterate that. Yeah, I forget. He hands her some stuff. I can't even remember what it's for or what it does.
It's old school spycraft where it's like, yeah, page 3, the personals have the code that decodes the message I'm really trying to send you. Like, they really did stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, because no one could guess what that was. You'd have to know and be told.
Then we get a cover.
Which is why it gave the movie away for me, because it's like, well, she knows, so obviously. Why is the CIA like directing MI6? Like, that doesn't make sense. We don't do that. They don't do that. So
yeah, I think in the comic book, it's just implied that like, well, she isn't getting help from MI6. Like, they just put her in there, and then like the Americans are going to give her some backup. So that's the only reason she deals with them.
Okay. Because earlier she was calling him a cocksucker. Like, like, oh, she hates this guy. It's like, no, she doesn't hate this
guy. Then we get a Marilyn Manson cover of Ministry Stigmata.
I know, that caught my attention. It's like, dun, 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 dun. Oh, there's only one Ministry. I'm 16 again in high school. It's like, oh, Ministry.
Lorraine gets a call from a computer voice on a phone that just says Satchel has been compromised, which I don't know why she's getting that call.
Well, because it's what the CIA guy handed her. That's why I figured out the whole movie there. It's like, okay.
Percival meets with Lorraine. Everyone knows Bogdan is dead now, and says Spyglass memorized the list.
No,
So
Bogdan isn't dead. It's the other guy. The guy
no,
that killed the
no,
killed.
Bogdan's the guy who got stabbed in the head with the ice pick. He's the guy who killed Gascoigne.
Oh, okay. I
Um,
thought oh, who was the other guy killed him? Okay. I could be messed up.
I might be wrong
Yeah,
because
I might be
there.
wrong. Because I thought Bogdan was the guy at the end of the movie.
No, that's Merc or what's no, what's his name?
Oh, Brunovich. Okay.
Bermovich.
Brunovich is the guy at the end of okay,
Yes.
yeah, I was fucked up. You're right. Okay.
They're both Russian guys, but I'm not sure like. But Bogdan's kind of the guy that was like more on Percival's level, and so they were like trying to sell this list because they know everything's about to fall apart. It's like this list is only its most valuable thing is right now before the wall falls, because like it'll still be valuable afterwards, but right now it's at its most value.
Let me tell you something about this list. It's not because I know how the Cold War ended. It's not going to stop the complete implosion of the Soviet economic system. No matter how many bad things we did that are on this list, it's not going to stop the reality of the implosion of the Soviet economic system. But whatever. They said, oh, it'll continue the war for 30 years. It's like, what? Like increase the value of the ruble by 400%? Because that's the only thing that would continue this cycle. But, it's a movie. I get it. It's fine.
But here they say Spyglass doesn't have the list, but he memorized the list, committed it to memory. So
Yeah.
they need to go after him. I wrote presumably Gascoigne's watch didn't have the list because they have Percival looking it over, but he seems like disappointed and starts drinking like the information on there wasn't the list.
No, the information was on there.
Yeah, but we never see it.
No, but it was on some kind of microfilming access because he too, not Gascoigne. I'm sorry. No, the other guy, the McAvoy character, also remembered the list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was confused. I thought you were talking about McAvoy, the other
Yeah,
character.
Percival.
Percival, yeah, Percival also remembered the list.
Well, no, he's taking apart the watch here, because that's why. Because otherwise, he doesn't need Spyglass if he knows the list.
Yeah.
Or unless he's just using it as a bargain chip, is like, well, here's another guy you can bargain with.
No, he doesn't need Spyglass because he shoots him.
Yeah, but that was the cover for something. I don't know.
I thought he too remembered the list because he found the microfilm in the watch. I could be misinterpreting that.
Yeah, but like they show like snippets of like what's on the watch, but it doesn't directly like. There's some things it's like, okay, there's some snippets that mean here's MI6 and stuff, but we don't actually see the list, so we don't actually know. Because this is like the whole dilemma of what's supposed to be cool about the comic book is like ultimately there may have never been a list, and the whole thing was for nothing.
Oh, okay.
That's what goes on the book. Here is implied that there is a list.
Yeah, I know. I always thought there was a list. I never got that other read on
it. No, in the
comic, again, I'm not perfect, so
yeah. In the comic book, I don't know. This movie is not perfect, so it's. I mean, it still doesn't work in the comic book either, where it's like, well, wait, what did happen? It's like, it's what the audience thinks. So, like the I don't know, like the more downer interpretation is that the list never existed and all this happened for nothing.
Yeah, all these people died for shit. Which is
yeah.
Actually, a very Eastern European story, very Russian tale. They died for nothing. They died for secrets that weren't worth knowing.
So Percival and Lorraine are like working together to go after Spyglass, so they got to go over to East Berlin to get him out. Then we come back to the interrogation, and Gray says he got a call from Percival saying he had the list and knows who Satchel is, and it's within that retelling that they have like little snippets of like what's on the microfilm in the list, which you don't know if like what we're being shown is accurate or what he just thinks is accurate. But if he has the list, I don't know why he didn't just tell Gray. It's like, yeah, here it is, here you go. But I don't know. There's also a cut where he says like, I'm getting close. It's like, well, don't you have the list? Don't you know where it is? But I mean, this is just supposed to make Percival look more suspicious now. Then Percival meets with like some Stasi guy to make a deal with him, or is this Bermovich? I can't remember. Then we cut to Lorraine's with Delphine, and they have like a dour conversation about like
Keep explaining. I'll be right back.
they have like a dour conversation about like, yeah, this spy stuff, this relationship we have isn't for real. Um, Delphine says like, your eyes look different when you tell the truth, and then Lorraine is like kind of like horrified by that. I mean, not really, but she's like, well, I got to learn to stop doing that. And she's like, what, telling the truth, or like, no, giving it away? So, so she needs to have a better poker face and be more convincing with her lies. Then we get to Depeche Mode Behind the Wheel plays, and we get Lorraine and Percival are breaking in somewhere at a train station because they get to East Berlin on the train, I think. Or, yeah, they walk there? I can't remember. We get titles on the screen that say East. They walk into Merkel's place, which is just full of computers, and here spyglass is hiding out at Merkel's place. We're in East Berlin. Spyglass is hiding out at Merkel's place. So,
Angela Merkel.
I can't even remember who that is.
She was the former. What do they call him in Germany? El Presidente? No.
The commission? No. Prime Minister? No, they might have another thing.
President? I don't know.
Yeah, I think
Germany's
it's president.
a federal republic. Yeah, I think it's like ours.
Lorraine has spyglass shave and changes clothes, so they'll less be likely to be noticed. Then we cut to like a sniper setting up outside of a protest march. Here they show up like the scale of the protest march, which is like, oh, this is huge. Which in the comic book, it's like one panel with like, here's 8 people with signs. Yeah. Here it's like, oh, this is like 500,000 people marching, or how many they got, I don't know.
Yeah.
It does a better job of establishing like just how large this moment is that all the spycraft is happening amongst.
Yeah, 1989. I was there were German exchange students at my high school, and I was asking them about this because I was just as interested then as I am now in this, and they were like, "Oh yeah, it's pretty big," but they were from like way in Western Germany, so they didn't. Yeah. They were like, "Yeah, it's probably a good thing if we have one country."
Which I forget. So I don't know what the listener is, but if I believe right, like Berlin's on the east side of East Germany, right? It's in East Germany, and then Berlin itself was separated into 2 cities, and then the only way they could get things was basically through airplanes that the Soviets decided to not shoot down.
There was that, and there was a highway you could travel too.
Oh, there was? Okay.
There's videos on YouTube you can watch about instructional videos for U.S. soldiers who have to travel on the highway to West Berlin, and how it's actually amazing. Just watch it. It's like, make sure you have a full tank of gas. Don't run out of gas on the way. And if you get pulled over by the East German police, that's one thing, but if you get pulled over by Russians, that's like dangerous, like because the East German police and the Russians hate each other, so you can actually play them against each other. But if the car breaks down in this corridor that you can travel to Berlin with, there's all kinds of things you got to do. But yeah, watch it on YouTube. It's really weird. It's wild how Europe was organized at that time.
Because I always thought like that's like, well, how does this work? Because I always heard like, was it the Berlin airlift? Is that what they called it?
Yeah, that happened after World War II. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like Berlin's in East Germany, and so but there's one part that's not part of it.
West Berlin is a free city. East Berlin is not. Yeah, but the Berlin airlift was basically like, yeah, we're gonna parachute supplies and stuff in because we're just daring the Russians to shoot down American aircraft, because if they do, it's an act of war, and it's like, okay. Because remember, Edward Heller is like furiously working at the hydrogen bomb at that time. It's like, let's see what happens. This is why the people who lived in Berlin at the time of the Cold War not really pro-nuclear war, because no indication that they would live more than a few seconds after that started on either side. So, yeah, but there was a whole freeway that travel. It's weird. You could
Huh.
watch videos on YouTube. It's
So yeah, the sniper's setting up outside the protest march, which like it's a whole setup because he knows like, oh, Spyglass is gonna appear, so like, they got a tip somehow. So it's like, okay, there's a double agent somewhere. Lorraine gets a gun. It's just a Makarov. I don't know if it's a special Stasi Makarov. In the comic book, she's like, she wants a different gun. But he's like, hey, you can't, beggars can't be choosers. I don't have any gun available here. I have the guns that are available here.
I want an H&K with the threaded stock, a threaded barrel. It's like, well, that hasn't been invented yet. So,
but here Percival's kind of like mad. It's like, he's like, you don't need a gun. It'll be worse if you're found with it. Which doesn't come true, but it's just like why is he against this?
why is he so anti-Second Amendment all of a
They create because Merkel just has a bunch of stuff here where it's like, this is where you've kind of I guess afterwards you realize like, oh, he has embassy stuff, so he can create a passport, which I guess maybe an embassy wouldn't have. Would they have passport making tools at an embassy?
I would have. Oh, they would at least have the ability to stamp your passport to give you a
Okay.
visa, I would assume.
Okay.
As a global traveler that I am.
Percival is dressed in a Stasi uniform. Spyglass has like some weird outfit that everyone's embarrassed by.
Totally 70s, like Eastern European outfit. Yeah.
Spyglass family shows up, which is a last minute change. This is almost like almost redeems Percival for a moment because he's concerned about the family than less so about Spyglass. Because essentially he does get the guy's family out, as far as we know, but then he shoots Spyglass. It's like,
yeah,
that would be an interesting dichotomy, but we never really get into why he does any of this. But
yeah, his daughter's cute. I mean, I'm gonna put a 45 through his chest, but cute or whatever round he used.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Then we get to we cut to the breakout. So Lorraine is escorting Spyglass. Percival has his family. The sniper and spotter have them in sight, so they're ready to shoot them. And then Merkel gives a signal, and the crowd opens up umbrellas that blocks the sniper's view, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's actually kind of a neat idea. It's like that would actually work. Yeah, I could see that working.
And then we have again the where Percival's thrown off by this. Is this wasn't part of the plan. It's like, what you mean, common sense and protecting our assets? Yeah, be worried about that. That doesn't make you look weird at all.
Why are you doing this? You're gonna stress out the KGB. You don't want them to be angry.
And so then there's some hubbub with the sniper. It's like, I don't have a shot, and then Spyglass gets shot anyways, and we see it's Percival who shoots under his arm with a silenced pistol. And then
with a movie silencer, not a real one, by the way. A real one would be 3 times as long.
Through a crowd. He's just, that's just how good he is. And so then that kind of the shot kind of, does the shot disperse the crowd or is it silenced?
No, no one notices.
Oh, okay. Well, then the sniper starts shooting at them, but they miss.
Yeah. No, I think they notice. The crowd notices that.
Oh yeah, they just notice him bleeding or something, and then they're like, "Oh, we gotta get out of here." So Lorraine grabs Spyglass and they go into the building because she needs to take out the sniper before they can get out of there. So, good logic there. So she leaves Spyglass on the bottom floor, and then she takes an elevator up. And here's we have the stairwell fight. This is another famous fight scene from this movie. It's a really cool fight scene. This is also where Charlize Theron did a lot of her own stunts, and I know the stunt community that really had to really gave her a thumbs up. It's like, oh yeah, she's one of us now.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those. I think this. Yeah, she probably broke ribs or something to do this scene.
It's a visceral scene to watch. You're like, oh, she just took a bag of tools to the head, a dismantled sniper rifle to just the same thing as a bag of tools to the head.
Because she's this is a fight where like she gets more tired as it goes on. But
yeah,
also
I like
so
the
does everybody else.
exhaustion. It's like, can we just not fight a minute before I have to grab this kettle or hot plate or whatever and just cave your skull in? Can I catch my breath?
But yeah, I think one point a guy pulls a knife and she's able to kind of like use the knife against him. So this kind of gives her like kind of a breather. It's like, thank God the knife did all the work. I don't have to punch these guys.
Yeah.
And then
Thank God for his ruptured organs.
and then she's like, she goes to the rifle bag and she tries putting it together, but they're like the bolt's not in there. So she goes to look the guys over to see if like the bolt's in there, but it's not. Here's when
I
like
like that touch because that's how people would really do that. It's like, let's not put the weapon ready to reassemble back in the bag. Keep the firing pin in your pocket because this could be used against you.
um here's like Spyglass makes his way up the stairwell. He's like bleeding out some more. He's got shot in the side, and
She's like yelling instructions over her shoulder while she's like fighting a guy with a ginsu knife. Like, do anything to stop the wound. Find alcohol, tape, anything like just to staunch up this hole in your body. Because you actually have under the illusion, like, oh, he's gonna make it. Like,
yeah.
Marlise is in charge. Like, we're gonna figure this out.
But he's walking upstairs. He's like two more coming. He's kind of whispering it, and so then she can't find the bolt on the guy. So then she just takes the rifle button. That's a weapon now, and so she beats up
part of an AK-47 Dragunov she's gonna use to like stab someone in the head with like, yeah, it'd probably work actually. But
yeah, so she beats up 2 more guys, but even more guys come in, so they make their way in her room and she blocks it off, and it's like she's taking shots, or shots are coming through the door, and this is where she's telling them to like, you know, to staunch up the wound. I think eventually he just finds like duct tape and just like wraps it around him. So
yeah. He's trying to help her fight with a bullet hole through him, which is like kind of cool. Like, yeah, I could see that.
But yeah, we get Keyface guy comes in again, and so it's like that's her nemesis, and he basically is beating the crap out of her. Here's where that Spyglass tries to help, but he gets knocked to the side. Yeah, she hits him with it. She tries to grab as many things she can to hit him with, but he still comes at her. He pins her against the wall. I think he's choking her out, and she grabs like a corkscrew wine bottle remover and just like stabs him in the eye behind her a bunch of times.
Yeah,
or stabs him in the eye. And then like I think does one more stab to the chest and he falls over. So I assumed he was dead, but no, he comes back just one more moment.
And she beats him to death with a hot plate. Or you don't know if she beat him to death, but yeah.
No, she doesn't. You assumed it because he was down, because he comes back. And then
which I like the thing about the strangling move where she's like stabbing him. Because that's something when I see strangling in movies where people just like freeze and kind of silently die. It's like, no, you're going into the wall, dude. I'm going to do everything I can to stop my windpipe from being cut off. And it's like, yeah, she actually does what real people would do. It's like, I'm freaking out at this point.
But then the guys with the guns come in afterwards and she just dispatches it. Well, it's actually before. Well, I forget. She gets a gun at some point. Oh no, she has the gun. So she shoots one guy as he comes in, like in the eye, and then another guy, and then the gun gets knocked away, and then she fights the big Keyface guy, and then some more gun guys come in, but she grabs another gun and shoots those guys out, and then they leave.
Yeah.
They
very John Wick, the whole thing. It's like, oh yeah, this looks like a John Wick movie.
And I think it's technically done in one shot, but you know, it's a lot of clever editing where it's multiple shots put together, but
it looked cool.
Yeah. It's really cool. Like all the action scenes, there's only like 3, but they're all cool in this movie. You know,
like,
you can
I'm
tell
glad she did that. This chick is cool. Furiosa can't lose.
Yeah, they walk outside and they hold up some police officers and steal their car.
Yeah, these poor like East German cops.
And they start playing "I Ran So Far Away" by Flock of Seagulls. Here's where Keyface shows up again. He's not dead, but here she just finally just runs him over with the car, and now presumably dead. Yeah.
Which is what should have happened. Yeah, just kill this guy, please.
Spyglass has his wound taped up, but he's still trying to dress it because he finds like a medic kit in the police car. Now it's a car chase. And there's kind of cool stuff here. Not a lot happens. They eventually just kind of get away because a bigger truck just hits one of the chasing cars. And
Yeah,
then they
she evades rather than bashes, which is like, yeah, that would actually work because these are
yeah.
really cheap, horrible, like Eastern Bloc cars. I mean, these cars literally there's 100 horsepower between the three of them. So it's like, yeah, this is how this chase would go because these cars aren't like big American police cars where you can. It's like the Blues Brothers where you can just bash through shit and they have like 400 cubic inch engines that can take all this damage. No, these are like cars with lawnmower engines in them, and they literally like, yeah, this is how you do it. You're better off like waiting for the beer delivery truck to bash the suspension out of the other car than do the thing.
But they evade their pursuers and kind of take a moment, and they're like parked next to the river. But then, like, I think it's Bermovich or one of them, like, just
Bermovich.
knocks the car into the river.
It's that famous scene where you're like, oh, everything's fine, and then you look to the passenger side, and here comes a car.
Yeah.
And you just get bashed into the water or whatever. In this case, it's the water, but yeah, we've all seen this before.
And because he bashed Spyglass's side, his leg is like stuck in the car, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And so they try to get him loose, but eventually he just dies. Which I'm not sure if he just drowns or if it's like that's blood loss and he's drowning, like he just dies sooner.
Well, do you imagine how fast your heart is jackhammering when you're like underwater and can't breathe and you got a bullet hole completely through you? It's like, yeah, you're dead in many ways. You're dead in more than one way. So,
yeah, but it's very haunting how he looks in it because like,
well, she says, "I'm gonna get you out."
Yeah.
And he like believes in her the whole
Well, yeah,
time.
she said she's never lost a package,
Yeah.
which I never believed her when she said that.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm just trying to make you feel better, but
Yeah.
it's like he needs to believe in that because literally what he's doing is insane. And I've read real stories of people that they've got out of Russia, and it's like, oh yeah, it's that nuts. It's like it's not that violent, but it's always like, well, are you gonna make it? It's like, I hope so. Get in the trunk. It's always like that. It's like, hope they don't look in the trunk. It's like, wait, you're the CIA and you hope they don't look in the trunk. It's like, yeah, this is the best we can do. Short notice. What do you think? There was going to be like a rocket ship to take you out? It's like, no, just hope they don't look in the trunk.
So yeah, Spyglass dies underwater and Lorraine swims to the surface. So we cut back to the interrogation. Here's where the tape like is done, so they refill the tape recorder. So that'd be in the end of Act 2. So we have Act 3. Lorraine is mad at Gray, saying like, you sent me up in a hornet's nest. And then we cut to we cut back to the story, and Lorraine gets out of the water, and Merkel gets her to safety. They get back to the west with like an ambassador's car because like he says something. They make a moment out of it where it's like, we need to get the car, and they make it look like they're going to uncover some supercar and race over. It's not. It's just a Volvo with ambassador plates on it.
Yeah.
So.
Diplomatic immunity for all you Lethal Weapon fans.
So yeah, Percival talks with Kurtzfeld about like this being a trash fire and everything. Is everything get wrong? It seemed like there's like guys come in and moving things. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know where they are. I can't remember where like Percival and Kurtzfeld are at the same time. But here's where Percival learns that Lorraine is still alive and basically decides like he needs to kill her, I guess.
Yeah.
Because remember, he betrayed them for reasons. Then we cut.
Love Berlin, damn it.
Cut to Lorraine's apartment. She remembers like Percival taking her coat, and then she goes and looks for a tracking device and finds one. Here's like a little bit of like extra details where it's like he put a French bug on her coat to like make her think it was Delphine, which I guess is an interesting thing. It's like, yeah, wouldn't you do that? Wouldn't you just steal other people's spy stuff and then put it on other people's stuff? So yeah, they would think it's that.
Finally, somebody acts intelligently in this. I'm just going to walk into spinning blades. It's like, oh, okay.
There's a knock at the door. It's Delphine. but she gets sent away. Then we get shots of like protests as the looming fall of the wall is about to happen. Lorraine goes to Percival's and like all his all his bugs are like playing on a recorder, so she's like hearing that stuff going on. Then we cut to Delphine's at her place, and she's like packing up, about to get out of there, and she has headphones and a Walkman on. She's listening to Voices Carry again. Percival comes in and starts garroting her, but it looks like it's just like some like tubes or whatever. Delphine fights back and stabs Percival several times, which is almost humorously, because even he's laughing at like being stabbed, and he's like trying to get it out of his back. It's like, oh, that's an awkward position to have a knife.
Yeah, because he like bashes it into the wall and drives it deeper. It's like, this is why garroting people is stupid, because they're gonna fight like chimpanzees, not to be strangled to death.
Lorraine shows up.
Why, like a silenced gun to the back of the head would make a lot more sense. It's like,
yeah, I think they kind of explain in the comic where it's like he's trying to make them think the Russians did it because was one of their MOs or whatever or something.
Okay, use a Tokarev pistol and shoot the back of the head. You know, just.
But Lorraine shows up at the apartment. She's trying to buzz in while Percival gets back to strangling Delphine, and he does finish it and kills her. Then Lorraine busts in, guns up, and she clears the room before she mourns the death of Delphine. So that's the correct thing to do. So.
Yeah, that is nice. It's like, okay, first make sure there's no assassins waiting to jump out of the corner, and then like, oh, this chick I bumped donuts with once, I love her, and now I'm gonna have a moment of sadness because she could tell when I was telling the truth, which is a bad like poker thing. I was waiting for like this is the point of the movie where it gets dumb.
Yeah.
I wanted what's her name? Lady Gaga, like Poker Face to play.
Then we cut to Percival's dressing his wounds. We get more shots of protester. Here's like Percival like speaks to the audience. I forget, I wrote down like who won and what was the point anyways or whatever. And here's
just fourth wall rhetoric about the Bush's coming war on terror, which will completely delegitimize the West's victory during the Cold War.
And also in one of these moments, because it kind of like intercut between it, this is where he says like, "I love Berlin," which is supposed to explain why he betrayed everybody, and it doesn't.
Yeah, why he like killed multiple people, betrayed his own country. It's like, I like driving a 911 around dangerously.
See, in the comic, what's implied is that like he basically had already sold out to the Russians, and then like he was panicking because like, oh, Russia's going to collapse, so I don't have a retirement in Russia anymore. There's nothing to retire to.
Okay, now I like that versus what's in the movie, because he doesn't see like the future brilliance of being one of Putin's oligarchs. It's like, no, I'm screwed. It's like Russia's dead. It's like, no, Russia's very much alive.
Oh yeah, here's how I was get like a somber version of 99 Luftballons playing.
Yeah.
Like 999 Sig Luftballons.
No, it's more of this somber German shit. It's like, yeah, we get it. You lost the Second World War and it sucks. So I understand it.
Percival grabs a bag of stuff. I don't know what it is. Something valuable to him.
Yeah.
And he's trying to escape amongst like the
at this point, this movie is just molten lead being poured on the ground. It's like, we don't know what's happening or why. It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
You got to do a lot of work as the audience to make this movie make any sense at this point.
Yeah.
This is when I turned against this movie, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, it's why I remember like disliking it. It's like, oh, this is really cool, but it falls in the third act. Because it's like what you wanted to do. It's like, well, you have you have all the clarity of what do you call that? Hindsight.
Yeah.
To make an evaluation or a commentary on what the Cold War meant and what it means to us now. And You did none of that.
No.
This is all the back. This is just something like, oh, we just want a backdrop to like a spy thriller, and it's like, well, this is an exciting time for it to happen, and so that was it.
Yeah, it's like this is based on a comic book, which might have had some meaning. Sometimes they do. I don't like comic books, but sometimes they have meaning. It's like, oh, it's the guy who wrote, who worked on John Wick. Like, this is going to look cool, and we're going to have a commentary on the Cold War. It's like, no, it's just a stupid actioner. I don't want it to be a stupid actioner, but at the last act, it's a stupid action.
Yeah.
You're waiting for Optimus Prime to come out, and they're like, "This is why capitalism won." And, it's just like might as well be a fucking Michael Bay whatever movie.
Lorraine, did you find the Allspark?
Yeah.
It had a list of my groceries on it.
It's just pathetic. Get the knock list. Why
the Transformers are the ultimate secret agents.
There's more than meets the eye.
Robots in disguise.
Yeah. It really got dumb. Badly. Stupid.
Lorraine, what if I could turn into an ape? Well, like a mechanical ape or or is it organic? No, it's mechanical. It's clearly not an animal.
What if I brought Anthony Hopkins out to bring meaning to this? And what if we did that again in 5 years in Westworld? Where I'm trying to give my brother a job. It's like, huh? Where's Christopher Nolan involved in this movie? What happened? No, this has deep. It's a dream within a dream within a dream. No, it isn't. Shut up.
Yeah. So Percival was trying to.
Oppenheimer was a great movie.
Yeah, now I'm trying to think of something to Oppenheimer and Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime? No, that's not gonna work.
Chris Mazin broke my heart with Last of Us.
What was I doing? Oh yeah, so yeah, we had the voiceover of Percival, and he's trying to justify his betrayals, but he, we don't clearly they see it didn't work. So I guess I guess the lesson is Percival was an idiot. Like the character we liked the whole movie was like ultimately a fool. Like, okay. Percival finds a knife in his Porsche tire, so now he's just trying to leave. And then Lorraine just shows up and shoots Percival. She's like listening to his dying words, and he claims Lorraine's various covers are on the list, and she's a bad person.
Which we knew from like, well, she can fight like 6 guys to the death. It's almost obviously like been in some tough corners before.
Yeah. He says he doesn't have the list, and so she takes a watch and just shoots him in the head. It's like, oh, that's efficient.
Well, he's also claiming he remembered the list, just like the other guy. Like, look at a spyglass. It's like, I remembered it. It's like, cool. Well, I'm just gonna blow your brains out of the back of your head. So that thumb drive's erased.
Here she says like, she calls him like Comrade Percival or something like that, and here he's like, oh, that's how you're gonna play it, implying that like that's not what's going on. Yeah. Here she's saying like, oh, you're a KGB spy, a double agent. And he's like, no, it's stupider than that.
Oh, wouldn't it be glorious if it was that interdimensional? And we're playing that many levels of 3D chess, but no, this is a movie.
So I mean, I guess the weird thing here is like here it's kind of implying that Lorraine is the double agent because he's like, oh, you're lying. I'm not Satchel, like you are, or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like 2 minutes of the movie. They try to wrap up the whole conspiracy and don't do it well.
Yeah, I'm putting photo etch on a missile assembly at this point. I'm like, yeah, I don't care.
Because like they cut back to the interrogation scene and like, you killed Percival? It's like, well, I took his body back. I thought we all knew that, but apparently they didn't. So
yeah.
Apparently the West Berlin police found a body with a couple of bullets and are like, yeah, let's put him on a plane with this lady.
Yeah, let's wrap this in a bit British flag so they can salute it. And that makes perfect sense.
So everybody's disappointed in it, and then like presumably like she's walking off with the list because she says she doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Um, which I mean, I guess because they don't bring up the point that the idea that like that the list may not exist, which they should have done that because that would have made this all more at least a bit more interesting. It's like,
Yeah, it's stupid. It's like, well, let her walk away. It's like, no, let's peel her skin back an inch at a time until we know where the knock list is, because that could undo all Western intelligence and somehow extend the Cold War. And again, it will increase the value of the ruble 400% in the Cold War for another 30 years, which might have actually been better or at least more organized than what we're facing today. I'm not sure.
So then we have like an epilogue. I don't know how to describe this. It says Paris 3 days later. Lorraine's meeting with
I call it a
Brema,
stupologue, but yeah.
or this like, please give us a sequel or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Lorraine
I'm not
meets,
watching it, by the way, if it comes out. Even if it's for this podcast, I'll be like, I didn't watch it. Explain it
oh,
to me.
I'd watch it. I think I think like everything's cool about this movie except for the ending.
I
The
mean,
ending ruins a lot of it.
if they sent me an email like, Nathan, we didn't fuck up the ending in this movie, okay, I might watch the sequel. They would have to personally reach out to me.
Because I think like this has cool style, cool action. Charlize Theron's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's right up my alley. It's like, I love this. This is the era of history. Like, I'm on really solid footing. Like, I know almost everything about the Cold War in the 80s, and it's like this touched all the points until the end, and it's like got really dumb and it got contrived.
Yeah.
You know that word contrived? Everyone throws that out there. In this context, it actually means something. I can prove it. It's very contrived at the end.
Lorraine meets Bremovich at a hotel. She has like, I wrote dark dyed hair, but it's just a wig.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how to look for those things. I remember people complaining about like wigs and toupees, and it's like, I never notice any of that stuff unless it's unless it has like that latex line. That's the only time I'm gonna know it's a wig.
Yeah, neither me nor you have to worry about pattern baldness as men, so we don't know anything about wigs or fake hair or hair plugs or anything. We're lucky that way, only that way, but we are very lucky that we have nice full heads of hair into our, ending days or wherever we're at now.
I don't know. It's like sometimes like how like we'll watch a movie and there's like some technical detail that takes us out of the movie, and like our mom will have that word, like she'll watch a movie, it's like, that guy's wearing hair plugs. It's like, wait, that stopped the entire narrative for you.
Yeah. It's like somebody pulled the e-brakes on the train, like, hair plugs. Like, obviously. Okay. What? All right. You say so.
She's wearing hair extensions. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Are we gonna ignore the rest of the movie then?
Well, because neither me nor you have hair problems. We're those lucky American males that like don't have to worry about that. Yet. Life isn't over yet. Give it another 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, Nathan could get into weightlifting and start taking testosterone and lose all the hair that way.
Yeah, I'll just say, it's like, yeah, I guess I had baldness and my, shoulders are huge.
Yeah, it skipped 8 generations.
I don't know what happened. I'm just like banging veins.
So she hands the watch over to Brimovich, which presumably has the list on it, implying that she's a traitor. And then just a bunch of guys with gloves come in, casually prepping to kill her. So then she pulls a gun.
It's very like, what do they call that? Snatch, like assassination scene.
Yeah.
Because remember the movie Snatch, the British gangster, the guys are always like unrolling body bags in the background. It's one of those like assassination scenes. Like, well, what's gonna happen?
We're going through the motions that we're professional, but then it doesn't work out.
Yeah. Because professionals have just walked in and shot her in the head. It's like, well, we're not going to give you a chance to like stick a wine bottle in my neck or something. We're just going to kill you.
Here she reaches in the ice bucket and pulls out a gun and kills all the guys.
There's a gun in there. Okay, I thought she stuck a wine bottle in somebody's.
I mean, she might have. She might have lost the gun at one point. It's presumably because they cut to Merkel's hanging around there, so it's like presumably because he has a bellhop on, so it's like, oh, he put the gun in the ice bucket.
Yeah.
Which also presumes a lot of things later on. So, yeah, she kills all the guy. Then she kills Bromovich last, or she shoots him in the throat. And like as he dies, she explains like how she betrayed him. It's like not the other way around. Then we get Under Pressure plays. She takes off the dark hair wig. We cut to Merkel's hanging around. Then Lang gets on a plane with Kurtzfeld. He says, "Let's go home." Her accent changes, and this implies that she's actually an American spy the whole time.
There's an American triple agent who is playing both the KGB and MI6. Which makes me think, well, what was her backstory? Like, how did that work? Okay.
uh, so yeah, I
It
was
would
just
make sense if she like, oh no, I was a South African and I like, oh, what you really did. Okay, well that makes sense.
So I don't, other than like just to try to like do kind of like a like surprise ending thing. I don't know how this serves the rest of the movie.
It doesn't. It's stupid.
Unless I can only imagine that some producer was like, how we ended it, and she didn't give up the list. People are going to think she's the traitor. It's like, well,
yeah.
is that interesting? Is that true? And then somebody went, no. It's like, well, then let's shoot this, and then we'll make her an American, and then like she's the hero because she's an American.
Yeah. Because Americans are always good people. They're always doing the right thing in the world. We're trying to teach the rest of the world about liberty, justice, and the American way. What was it, truth, freedom, in the American way, or something? Yeah. That's how it really works, everyone. That's what they'll teach you in college or wherever.
Which I don't think I picked up on the first time I watched this, that she switched accents and it was implied that she's an American spy. I just thought this was a ploy to do a sequel.
Yeah. It could be. I mean, yeah.
And then do like
it could be.
And then do like a 90s inspired spy thriller, which with 90s music and stuff. And 90s remixes.
It's a lot of 9 Inch Nails that scream through a bullhorn. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, we can get what was the 90s Ministry song?
No, which one? There's so many.
Well, what's the most famous one? It's the one where like they have like all the news footage and stuff, and it was.
New World Order.
Yeah, NWO.
Yeah, NWO. Yeah.
Yeah, see, that'd be perfect.
Where Bush is giving the speech. Yeah. I mean, 90s Russia is like an amazing time to write fiction about.
Yeah.
It's like literally you can just lose your mind, in imagination.
But yeah, I mean, because I don't know, like, what would be the hot spot in the 90s? Is there something we're forgetting about where it's like, actually, this was what happened this time? Because it's always seen as a peaceful time.
Russia, Serbia, Croatia.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All those places. Yeah, you could have something like, there's a secret weapon the Russians are trying to sell to the terrorists or to any or Serbian separatists or something. Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, you could do a movie set in Prague in the 90s, and it all has to do with spies.
Yeah, nuclear weapons and everything. Yeah. Just have her fight like 75 like Spetsnaz guys and win because that's realistic. And
but yeah, I mean, I think it's a cool looking movie, cool action, and maybe 2/3 of a good movie that's ruined by its third act. So.
Yeah, it's so sad in the third act how it ends. I like this. I wanted to like this movie.
Yeah.
Because like I said, this is my wheelhouse. Like, oh, I know all this shit front to back, and it's like, oh, this is cool. I mean, how many people know the motto of the Stasi? Like, it's like, oh, I love this stuff, but it just died at the end. It didn't like follow through.
Yeah.
But almost nothing does for me, so I'm not easy to please when it comes to this.
Yeah, I mean, this would be kind of a high bar for us, and we didn't learn anything.
I mean, I thought Citizen X wasn't bleak enough, so it's okay.
Well, we're sending a Hail Mary probe into space containing the supercut of the movies of the Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what scene from Atomic Blonde are we shoving into space?
It's gotta be when Charlize Theron and Delphine are having sex. That's part of the movie, and it explains everything. It explains human relations between French agents and MI6/CIA triple agents just getting together and just grinding it out for the sake of an orgasm that leads to world peace and victory of capitalism over communism.
Well, if you like what you heard, and how couldn't you? You can find us at verhoeveneffect.com or podcasters.spotify.com/pod/shows/verhoeveneffect, or you can go to Angry Bob's Film for Normal Guy Review.com.
Yeah, go there. What the hell's that?
Oh, that was a joke you made one time about like, it's like, oh yeah, it's making fun of like a fictional critic, and you called it like Angry Bob's Film for Normal Guys
Oh,
Review.com.
yeah. Okay.
And then I licensed the or whatever. I bought the the domain for that, and so it's a secondary link to our podcast page.
Yeah, do it. It's how Trump voters would react to cinema. I do something like that. Yeah.
You can rate our podcast whatever you want, but remember the only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. So, do what you want, but help us out, please.
Please.
We
Make
also
15 years worth of effort seem like worth something.
we have listener support at verhoeveneffect.com, where you can support us at a monthly stipend of 99 cents, 49 or 9.99. You can find us at Twitter or
Make
X.
this sideline count for something, because we really hate our actual job.
You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect, Facebook Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory. You can watch both this and that show live and unedited. And we have t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.